Hi, I'm coming back again to show off my recent model that I released. It's just a remix of a previous one. Because if anyone's seen, I released this a while ago, and it's been fairly popular. My Master Sword. I tried to make it as accurate as I could. Some areas, like I left these here because I just thought it looked a little better, but it's not exactly accurate. But the problem is, it's extremely sharp. So, like all these points, you can poke yourself, it hurts. Which makes it not very kid safe. And I've seen people printing it for kids, so I figure why not make a kid safe version? So what I did is I took this and I had to redo the wings completely. I used the same kind of lines I did, but I had to redo them completely. So the profile is a lot different, you can see. It's rounded over completely, so it's not sharp at all. The only sharp points, this a little bit, I did blunt it, but didn't know what else to do with that one. But other than that, it's smooth. It actually feels pretty darn good in hand if you just to feel it. Compared to this one, this one's very sharp, very pointy. So just want so I wanted to go through basic assembly of it. Because I didn't really do assembly since the previous one it was already assembled. So parts, you have the basic cross guard here that prints on one plate. I print this in eSun dark blue PLA. I've had people ask that, and it's a good color. I mean, it's not accurate entirely since technically it should be more purplish color, but I think the blue actually looks really nice. Then you have the grip. I did change how the grip works, and that it's rounded off a little more here as well to go with a soft theme, and the wrap actually kind of swirls on because I've seen other makers doing it. Popsicle on Printables actually was one that he did on his sword, and I thought it was a rather good idea, so I implemented on my own. And the pommel, which goes into there, and then the sword components. And well, I'm sorry, and the jewel that keeps the sword components in. So it's not that much printing, really. Longest parts would be the crossguard and the sword and the blade itself. But like on my bamboo, I think this was like 10 hours for the sword, 10, 12 hours for the sword. Crossguard was another, I want to say 8, 10 hours, and these were nothing. So it's a little more than a day of printing. It's really not that bad a print. The only issues I've ever run into is a little bit of overhang issue right here. Make sure you support it and support it down here. So if you turn auto supports on, it will support it right there by automatically, and you have to support it here. Interior not so important, but this is the only part you have to manually paint because it won't detect that part. That's just the very tip that's the issue, at least in my bamboo. Did have some, and also there's a little issues on this piece. I just had to take a razor blade to cut off the little saggy parts, and that's about it. So basic assembly, just do a dry fit to show you real quick. That fits into there. Actually fits really nicely, and that straightens it on. There's enough force to give it so that you so it's nice and straight from the get-go. And what you would do is then you apply some glue there and let that go. Now for this, you can see that there's a little, you can see it's a little fatter on this side than that side. That's the part that goes into the track. So you find the track down here, line it up, and then it just screws in. The nice thing about that is it provides friction all along there. So so once the pommel's on there, it will resist coming down. It won't twist as much. It just feels a lot more firm than the previous one I did. Then the pommel will cap it off, and I would glue this on once you're sure how you want it to do. After painting or doing whatever you need to do with it. So, and then the blade itself, it's pretty simple. All the components will print, like this. And then I left they're empty for then joiners. The joiners help make it rigid between each point. Now you might ask why I didn't just make this like a part of this part. What I found is when you print here, printing upwards is inherently weak because that's where the layer lines are. So by doing doing this in here, the layer lines are they're not in line with these layer lines, so it actually creates a lot of strength. Now it does create some weight as well, so if you like weight, that's good. So the joiner in that, blade here, next joiner, and that's the blade. As you see, it's not very long. It's I'd say, boy, probably about 2 feet at most. So it's not very long at all, and you can see everything is rounded off as well. Like there's no tip, no points. It's very smooth. I mean, of course, if you poke, but I mean there's a lot of toy swords that are like that. So here, let's just do a quick assembly after the dry fit now. So put this in. Just do some glue in here. I use Star Bond super glue. I find I really like their glue. It seems a little pricier on Amazon when you do it, but the thing with it is it comes with a very large bottle. So I think this was like $12-13. And if you go by pure ounceages, it's actually cheaper than the store-bought super glues like the Gorilla Glues and things like that. And it works so much better in my experience. So I've been really happy. I found them because Adafruit uses them. So I just looked at their pictures and I decided to use it. So I would get a little glue in here as well. So I go a little heavy, it seems, but it's all fine. Now for this, I would make sure that notch is forward. The big reason is that makes sure that the the wrap will be in line with what the pictures show the wrap to be. So we'll just get that in there. So just make sure that straight plate's already setting. See, that's how good this stuff is. It's already setting. I love this super glue. I mean, I feel like a shill for speaking like this, but it is really good super glue. So just let that set. I should probably cut this portion down a little bit, but yeah, there we go. So it's holding. I could, if I pull really hard, I could force it apart, but it's enough to hold it on. All right, so the grip, just make sure you get the right way, which would be this portion, the little sharper ends. Yeah, that's probably the sharpest point. That's the bottom because I had to cut the existing one, and that's where it cut off at. So I'd probably just put just a little glue, not a lot, in here. Yeah, just don't go. Since it's so much points of contact, you'd be fine with just a little bit. And you don't want it to run everywhere too, honestly. Okay, just twist that on. All right. Just let that sit for a second. And let's get down in there. Just get along the walls mostly, since that's where all the contact is. Okay. Let that go. Give that about 5-6 seconds of constant pressure. feels pretty good. All right, so these parts, these are little accents. I call them blade surrounds because that's literally what they're doing is surrounding the blade with a gold accent. Now, I've actually made them tight enough that they can go on without glue, but you might as well while you're at it, type deal. So let's get that in there. Now, I would make sure to dry fit these before you do it, just to make sure parts are fitting. You don't have anything you gotta cut off ahead of time. All right. Yeah, see, because I surround it on all sides, so it's pretty darn tight in there. So those aren't going to come off. So this is the hollow part. I call this hollow because, it literally has a hole in it. This one can be permanently attached, and that would just go on one side. It doesn't matter which side. You can choose whichever side you want because it's exactly mirrored, so it makes no difference. So a little super glue in there. Now I made a little bit of a mess. Let me wipe that off real quick. All right. That's because I'm rushing. All right. So that's the grip. Sword's the same way. Now you can either put the glue in here or on the joiner, whichever you decide. So it's probably a little easier to do the joiner since you don't have to worry about getting on the sides. I did make them a little shorter, so it may not reach the bottom, so I wouldn't worry about glue on the bottom as much, but it can't hurt since you won't be opening this. Okay. Do a little glue here. Okay, just get that cold. Just wipe off the excess real quick. Yeah, I put a little too more glue than I should have on there. But even then, if you're planning on painting, that's perfectly fine. Because I did make sure that the parts have basically, they should fit completely flush together. So there shouldn't be much of a seam. Because I basically made this joiner, smaller, so it won't push all the way against. And create, potentially a gap given people's, variants and printers and things like that. All right, let that set. just look for any extras in here because we don't want to glue the blade on accidentally. Yeah, it should be good. All right, I did forget about this part of the jewel. So now the jewel, I had to make this 2 parts for easier printing. Basically, this is the center peg, this is the end cap of the jewel. They go together as one complete piece. Because this is what keeps the blade from sliding out when they're swinging around or whatever. So we'll just get that in there. Get that little bit of pressure. All right. So now because we're glued up, blade should insert. It doesn't take a lot of force. I think actually because of smoothing it out, I've noticed it's a lot easier to put the blade in. Funny enough. So down the side that does not have the jewel protect around, that goes in, and it keeps the blade in. So it's nice and secure. And if, let's say, the kid gets a little too aggressive, swings the blade too hard, breaks it, does something, it's replaceable. So you don't have to redo the grip. So you can make it shorter if you want. I could eventually make some other versions. If anybody wants to make extra versions, I could post the step file. I don't mind. But as you can see, it is on there really well. It doesn't come out. Now this will probably loosen over time. You can always just print a new one, or I could even make a slightly, just a slightly bigger one, so it has a little more friction. I might just post a tighter one, so if anybody does run that issue for printer tolerances, so that's something I can make. But the nice thing about this is replaceability. So, person breaks it, there is a way to fix it. That was my big thing. Is when I looked at other swords, I would glue it up, and I'll just be like, well, if this breaks, it's done for. Not anymore. So that's it. Thank you for watching this, and I hope this is helpful when you build it yourself. And I hope anyone has children or somebody might be interested in having a sword, but they don't want them, poking an eye out or something weird like that. I think this is a pretty good alternative to it. Is a little heftier than a hollow sword, just to warn you about that. Like, I'd say it's probably, I'm American, so I would say it's probably about maybe 5 pounds. Yeah, I'd say about 5 pounds, whatever that would be in kilograms. Sorry about that. I'm better with millimeters because of 3D printing, but I am still not great with weight. Anyway, so everyone have a good day, and thank you for watching.